Today, guys, we're going to go over some of the basic Photoshop tools, and we are going to start to create our emphasis, or I like to call them color pop photographs. Now, before you get to this step, you're going to need some photographs to work with. So you should have already shot 5 examples of a still life that we had set up around the room. You should have uploaded them to your student folder, and now it's time to actually bring them into Photoshop and to start to enhance them. So basically, we're going to start with a color photo. We're going to learn how to change a color photo to a black and white photo. And then we're going to learn how to make a couple of different layers and erase a few parts to add a little color to our black and white to really make people look at them. Okay? So step 1 is going to be opening up your actual photo. So you go up to File, just open like you would any other document. I'm going to pick this one of the markers, and it will open up. And there it is. Okay? So there's a few things that you're going to need to know about Photoshop that I'll point out to you. First off is this area right here is your tool palette. Okay? The tools do all kinds of different things, from cutting things out, to smudging, to blurring, to adding color, to drawing, to cropping. So the tools, when you click on them and you hold, you get what's under there. So quick selection to a magic wand tool. Now, if a tool does not have that little corner, it's only one tool. And you can see the magnifying glass is that, and the pointer tool. Okay? So we're going to be working primarily today with the eraser. So if I click on the eraser, it's already selected, but there's 3 different erasers. We want the regular old eraser tool. Okay? So now let's start to talk about this area, which is probably the most important part because it sort of lays out where all your stuff goes. So right now this is a layer, okay, and it's titled background. It's your background layer, okay. There's a little lock on there, which basically means I can't throw it out. All right. There's a little dumpster down here, so if you ever make a bad layer and you got to get rid of it, you throw it out. Okay. There's a little icon next to the dumpster. It looks like a square with a little triangle in the corner. This is your layer button. If you click it, you magically get a blank layer to work on. What makes Photoshop so cool is you can add as many layers as you want, and you can throw out any layer, and your original photo will never be harmed. So it's very good to work on layers and not your background. All right. So we need to make a new layer, and there's 2 ways to do it. The fastest way is to click this button. All right. But we don't want a blank layer, so I'm going to click and drag and throw it out. All right. We want to make a copy of our background. So in other words, I want another copy of this photograph. So how we're going to do that is we're going to click and drag, and we're going to drag it onto our layers button. And you see, I get a background copy. Now there is a long way to do this, and I'll show you the long way too. You come up to layer at the top, so right here, click on it, and you're going to go to duplicate layer. You get this little thing. It's kind of just asking you, what do you want it to be? Background copy. Hit yes. Same thing happens. Okay. So now to turn one of ours into black and white. So background copy is going to stay color. However, background, and you could tell you're working in the right layer because you've clicked it and it will change color. All right. Is right here. Now I don't want you to see color. So I'm going to poke this little eye, and you notice it shuts off. All right. So now I'm going to select my background layer, and we're going to turn this black and white. So you come up to Image, you go to Adjustments, and we're looking for black and white, which is right here. Okay. Now these bars here will adjust how dark my picture gets. So obviously red makes all the reds darker. Yellow means all the yellows are going to be darker. And you don't want to get it too dark, so you kind of got to play with them a little bit, but everything's going to slide a little bit to the left. Green, cyan, blue, and magenta. Okay, and now I've got some really good blacks. I've got some cool white highlights that pop, and I've got some really nice grays in the middle. Okay, so I am pretty much ready. So I'm going to click OK, and that basically tells Photoshop, I like what you did. So I'm going to pump it up just a little bit more. So I'm going to come to Image and Adjustments, and for every photography student, levels is going to be something that you become very familiar with. So what Photoshop does is it looks at your picture, and it gives you a diagram, and it tells you you've got this much black, this much gray, and this much white. You can see there's not a lot of white. And we can adjust it. We can make it darker. We can make it lighter. In this case, I want to make it a tiny bit darker. So I'm just going to kind of bring that to the middle, and really that's all I'm going to touch. I'm not going to mess around with anything else. So I'm going to click OK, and now I've got one black and white copy, and if I poke the eye, a color copy. Okay. So now it's time to actually add the color pop, and it's a really easy way that we're going to do this. All right. We're going to come up to the eraser. Now I've already selected it. You see I have a pretty big circle. All right. So I'm going to start to erase, and you can see all of a sudden the color goes away. Now I can try to get as close to this, and you can click or you can drag. It depends on how sharp with a mouse you are. I'm not very good with a mouse, so I'm going to actually have to get in there a little closer. So I'm going to try to keep this pink and this orange, because I think that's a pretty cool looking, like a duo, a good duo to look at. So I'm going to get rid of all this other space, and I'm going to get as close to this marker as I can. Okay. You can see I get pretty close. Now right now it looks okay, but there's still a few colors around the edges that I just don't want there. So I'm trying to get as close to it as I can. Now let's say you do happen to make a mistake, like you go, oh no, all right. Photoshop has a couple of very good keyboard shortcuts that you'll get good and quick at. But if you don't know them yet, you just go to Edit and Step Backwards, okay? Or you can do the same mistake and hit Control Z. All right. Now Control Z only steps you back once. If you messed up 1, 2, 3 times, watch. Control Z only does 1. But if I hold Control Shift Z, it goes all the way back. All right. So let me go back. I'm sorry, it's Control Alt Z, and it continually steps back. So I've gotten pretty close. Okay. So I need a little bit more of a precise eraser. So I'm going to start down here, okay, and I'm going to use another keyboard shortcut. Control plus zooms in. So I'm going to zoom in. All right, now look at how big the eraser is. I still could use it and just come right up to the edge, but it doesn't get there perfectly. So I need a smaller eraser. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click this little arrow, and I'm going to slide this down. Now this measures at 85 pixels. This is what 85 pixels looks like. That's pretty good. All right, so now I'm up so close. I'm looking at a blown up view. All right, so I'm just going to clean that edge up. Now the closer you get to the color, the better it's going to look. But you can see I went over the edge a little bit there. So I'm just going to step back and hit Control Z, and you can see. So I'm just going to get up there nice and close. Sometimes it is easier to click the mouse instead of clicking and dragging. Okay, and then I'm just going to slide it around until I get everything cut out. So now I'm going to go a little bit quicker so you guys can see what the final product looks like. And I'm just using the sidebar to kind of navigate. Gets a little tough when you're doing Sharpies because they're kind of the same color as the background, so you just got to have a good eye. You can see I've just got a little bit up top, not much. It's not bad. I'm just going to continue cutting it out until I get all of the color away. Now, if I want to zoom back out so I can see what I'm doing, Control plus zooms in, Control minus zooms out. So you can kind of see where you are and where you're going. So I'm going to speedily do this one. I kind of touched the top there, but I'm not too worried about it for demo purposes. This will work. Okay. And you can see it really does a really cool looking job. Making those objects a little bit darker than they should be behind the color is going to really make it pop. And that's what we want. That's why I call this color pop, because we really want people to look at it and the first thing we want them to see is the color. So I'm going to take the time to just buzz around the edge here, and I'm probably not going to zoom out again. I will zoom out when I'm all pretty much finished and just kind of show you everything. So there's that. Let me get this one. Finish with the rest of the marker. Keep in mind, we're looking at a pretty close-up view, so you guys are going to be backed up a little bit more, but there's the final. Okay, there's the last one. So now I'm going to hit Control minus a couple more times, and there is my ColourPop photo. Okay, so you can really take the time and get in super, super close and work pixel by pixel to get all of these little edges absolutely perfect. But you can do that on your own. This was just a quick tutorial, and I hope it helped you guys out. Okay, so now once you're here, I'm going to show you how to save it. You're just going to simply go to File. You're going to go to Save As, and don't just click Save. All right, Photoshop gives you the option to save it in a lot of different formats, but we want to save this in a very standard format. A PSD is a Photoshop document. If you have Photoshop at home, it's great because you're going to open it up. Now, I always like to have people save this in two formats. Save it as a PSD, okay? So I'm in Photoshop. So I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to call it MarkerPop. MarkerPop, and it's going to be MarkerPop.psd. Save, okay? Now, if I want to work on this anymore, I can open it up and just work on it. And it'll open it up exactly where it is. So I could step back, I could add another layer, I could do whatever I want. Now I am going to save it as a JPEG, which is a very standard file format. Most pictures you see are JPEGs. So in order to do that, all right, still called MarkerPop, so I don't have to rename it. I'm going to click on this arrow, and that's a lot of stuff. All right, I'm looking for JPEG, not JPEG 2000, just JPEG. And when I click on it, I'm going to save it. Okay. Now, I'm going to save mine to the maximum, all right? So it's all the way to large file. I'm going to click OK, and there we go. It's saved, all right? Now, a JPEG, we can't go back into, all right? But a PSD, we can. So you're going to have one file that's basically print ready, and the other file that's ready to go back in and edit, okay? So that's it, guys. I'm going to post this to Edmodo if I can. If I can't, it'll be on the class YouTube page, and I'll let you guys have it. So each of you has a handout. You can use that handout. You can raise your hand. You can ask questions. But our objective today is to take at least one of your ColourPop photos and make it in this style on Photoshop today. Choose one and get it done. So, hope you guys enjoyed the little tutorial. I hope it helps you out. And we're going to be doing a lot of Photoshop. So, I'll see you soon.